Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Good. My name is Stephanie Mehta. I'm editor-in-chief of Fast Company. And for those of you who don't know, my connection to this event is that Paige Taylor's father started Fast Company 25 years ago. And so it's an amazing legacy that he has left me, and I'm truly honored to be the editor of this incredible brand, and it's been wonderful to be able to work with Paige on this, so I'm really grateful to be here. We have a wonderful panel for you today, and I wanted to let you know we're gonna have time for a couple of questions at the end. So as you're listening to this amazing panel, if you have things that you'd like to ask, save them for the end, and we'll try to get to some of your questions before we wrap up for the morning. To my far right is Zara Rahim, who is the head of strategic communications at The Wing. Who here has been to the Georgetown location of The Wing? Good group? All right, well, if you haven't, please check it out. It's an amazing institution. They really are an international network of women's clubs, and we're gonna hear a little bit more about The Wing in just a minute. In the middle, we have Sutian, who is a partner at Female Founders Fund, which is a venture firm whose portfolio includes some really great female-founded and female-led companies, such as Shine, Landit, Zola, and Thrive Global, which is Ariana Huffington's latest venture. Welcome, Sutian.
Thank you.
And Nicole Corbett is founder of Warn, which is a creative agency building brands for the female perspective. And her clients include Bumble, Michelle Obama's Let's Move, and Makers. Welcome to all of the panelists. Nicole, you launched Warn in 2013,
Yeah.
so you've been at this for a while. What changes have you observed among the female clients that you work with? And more specifically, has there been a change in the kind of messaging they want to communicate? Have they changed in the way that they want to present their brands?
So in 2013, when I started Warn here in DC, actually, I eventually moved it to New York. I could feel that there was just sort of like this underlying tension. I could see that so many women were starting companies, but it was still sort of bubbling. And so I really thought it was smart, to make a bet on women that they were going to, be very much the future of business and solve problems, like Sutian was saying, solve problems that they were seeing in their everyday lives. And so we've seen that happen more and more and more. Women have really come forward and said, we don't want products. 80% of products, in the last forever, really were invented by men and sort of designed by men. And so I think more and more women have said, why is that? Why do we have to put up with products that don't actually serve our needs the way we want them to? Let's just reinvent this. Let's totally reinvent the business models. And so I think that's been really, really, really exciting. Another thing is that I think women have become, because they've also grown up and decided to face a lot of different issues that they see in the business world, sexual harassment being one of them, the wage gap being another. I think many women have become, thankfully, extremely emboldened, in newer generations to go out there and say these things are unacceptable and we want to create the world that we want to live in our own image. And so that's been really exciting, and I think that has translated to the kind of brands that women build. Right? They want to get rid of taboos, get rid of stigma, like being embarrassed about having your period is not a thing anymore, that's not acceptable. And so I think that's just so good. I think it emboldens women and consumers. And another thing that's really interesting is that we work with not only venture-backed companies, but several of the biggest global corporate companies in retail and in CPG, and they've taken notice of this, either in acquiring those companies or in incubating their own companies that are focused on female consumers because they acknowledge the buying power of women.
Nicole, why did you start Warn, and why did you want to do this on your own rather than doing it inside the auspices of a big global agency where you could potentially affect at scale?
Well, first of all, I didn't want to work for anyone, so.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yes, definitely. I did not want to get a real job, and I did not want to work for anyone. So I decided to start my own company. And I also saw the statistics. I saw that women were starting 1,200 companies a day in the US. And I said, that's a big deal. Why is no one talking about that, right? That's an incredible opportunity. That's an incredible industry. Women are 50% of the population. Why is no one focused on them? And clearly, people got focused on them. You guys started Female Founders Fund right around that same time. And I wanted to start an agency and a company that not only was going to leverage my greatest talents and my interests and was going to be something I could be proud of, but also something that made a difference. And that's specifically why we chose to focus on female-led companies, because I wanted to see that change happen in the world, right? I didn't simply want to do creative work. I also wanted to make an impact and look back 10 years later and say, look at all these incredible companies that created jobs for other women, that changed the spectrum of what the work environment could look like. I wanted to be part of that.
Nicole, I want to talk with you a little bit about creating, communicating things that are inspiring to the outside world. You work with all of these inspiring founders. You yourself found inspiration in your clients. What is the process like, and maybe you can talk about a specific campaign or a specific project you worked on, of taking the energy that you see in the women that you work with, the women in this room, and then translating it into something that instantly reads as inspiring to other women?
When you describe that, I just think, I love my job. I absolutely love my job, because having that be your job every day is just so fun and cool. So a couple of different examples. So we worked on a campaign for Bumble on International Women's Day a couple years ago. And
Does everyone here know what Bumble is? Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure. I know you're the target audience. I just want to make
feel like I have it on my phone right now.
Sutian's wearing the yellow.
Yeah.
So it's all good here.
And that was really interesting, because we were working with them and trying to figure out, well, what do we want to say? And what's going to be different about this? We don't just want to be rah, rah, rah women, right? Like, what can we do that's really different? And so we pitched the idea of celebrating 250 million first moves made by women by highlighting women who have been the first to do something. Not women in history necessarily who have been the first to do something, because we've seen that time and again, but contemporary women who have been the first to do something that you might not have heard of, right? So the first African-American woman to climb Mount Everest, the first American woman to win a gold medal on floor in the Olympics, the first woman to build a multi-million dollar real estate company in New York City. And so we put together a 5-video series highlighting these women. One of them was Aly Raisman at the time. Another one was Barbara Corcoran. We really wanted a lot of sort of diversity of faces, and the energy was just so exciting and fantastic. And that's carried on over the years. I think they just put out the campaign this year with Serena Williams. And so just the energy around that is awesome. And then we just ran into Aly Raisman at JFK a couple of days ago, and she was like, I loved that campaign, let's do it again, which was really fun.
That's very cool.
And then we just last year worked with the mayor's office of New York City with Deputy Mayor Alicia Glenn to launch Women NYC, which is the first commitment by a city in the United States to create policies focused on women to lift women up. And that was really, really fun, because working with the city, you have access to a lot of different things, and we had all kinds of crazy ideas of what we wanted to do. We said, let's take a police boat with a projector and drive it up to the Statue of Liberty, and then project whatever we want onto that statue. What do we want to say? What do we want to say to Trump, mainly? And so she was really into that. We ended up taking over Washington Square Park and doing just sort of doing a takeover there, and then doing sort of a citywide campaign. And now there's a digital destination where you can go on and find all the different city resources that are focused on women in New York, and really hoping that that translates to more and more cities across the country doing the same.
Can you share with us how you failed that propelled you forward?
There were so many. One of them was deeply disappointing my parents, who wanted me to join the State Department and be in the Foreign Service. And after an internship at the State Department, I just told them, this is not for me. I went and then I got an internship in the photo department at Vanity Fair. So that was highly disappointing for them, and difficult to do, because listening to your own inner voice about what is right for you when everyone else around you is telling you something different is incredibly difficult to do. The second thing is actually deciding to make Warren focused on female-led companies was very difficult, because when I told the closest people around me in my life that that's what I was going to do, they told me what a horrible idea it was. that it was going to fail immediately, that I was narrowing our target audience too much, that it was too early, that corporate companies would never understand, that there was no money being put into them. And ultimately, I did it anyway because it felt like the right thing to do for me. And I figured, well, if it doesn't work, then I'll just try something else. The good thing is that it worked amazingly well, and so I feel really good about the fact that I took that risk.
Before I let our speakers go, I want to do a quick speed round. I want to ask their predictions on when women are going to achieve certain milestones. You guys ready for this?
Oh, God.
All right. So in what year do you think women will receive 10% of all U.S. venture investment? Remember, it's down from, it's currently 2.2%. And just wager a guess. We'll start with Sutian.
2035.
Nicole, do you have a guess?
I want to say, I'm just going to say 2030, so I hope it happens faster.
Price of Rights rules.
I just co-signed what Sutian says.
Second question. Currently, only 5% of Fortune 500 companies have female CEOs. At what point do you think we'll reach 10%?
Oh, God. 2030.
2050.
I would say 2050, yeah.
All right. The last one hopefully will be optimistic. In what year will the U.S. elect a woman president?
2020.
2020.
You heard it here. Thank you so much to Zara, Sutian, and Nicole. And thank you all.